You're still pretending to be a good mother? My sister yelled before her hand cracked across my face so hard my earrings hit the floor beside the birthday table. The music stopped instantly. 16 teenagers stood frozen around my son Ethan while blue and silver balloons swayed above them. I could hear the cheap ceiling fan spinning and the sound of paper plates crinkling in nervous hands. Danielle pointed straight at me. "Tell them why your son's been sick for months," she shouted. Ethan looked pale beside his birthday cake. His friends stared at me like I was hiding something terrible. I touched my burning cheek but said nothing. Then our neighbor Dr. Lewis stepped forward slowly and looked directly at Danielle. His voice was calm. "Why were you picking up Ethan's prescriptions without his mother knowing?" The whole room went silent. "My name is Vanessa Carter. I'm 36 years old, and until that night my family believed silence meant weakness. I worked as a receptionist at a pediatric clinic in Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't glamorous work. Most days I answered phones, scheduled appointments, sorted files, and dealt with exhausted parents who were scared for their kids. The pay barely covered rent, groceries, and Ethan's school expenses, but I worked every overtime shift I could find because my son deserved stability. After my divorce 12 years earlier, Ethan became my entire world. His father moved to Arizona with another woman and slowly disappeared from our lives. Birthday calls stopped first, then holiday cards, then everything else. So it was just me and Ethan in our tiny apartment with peeling kitchen cabinets and an old heater that rattled every winter night. Still, we were happy. At least we were until Ethan started getting sick. It began with headaches and exhaustion, then dizziness. Some mornings he could barely get out of bed. I took him to appointments constantly, but every doctor kept saying the same thing. Teen stress. Growth changes. Low iron. Nothing explained why my energetic boy suddenly looked exhausted all the time. Meanwhile, my younger sister Danielle acted like she had the perfect life. Big house. Luxury SUV. Expensive jewelry. A husband who owned 2 car dealerships. My parents adored her. At family dinners, my mother praised Danielle's designer clothes while criticizing my grocery store shoes. My father loved bragging about Danielle's vacations but barely asked how I was doing. I got used to being invisible. Danielle loved reminding me of the difference between us. "You work too hard for too little," she once said while staring around my apartment. I'd lose my mind living like this. I smiled anyway because fighting never changed anything. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. Patience. And memory. If your family ever made you feel small because you didn't have money or status, subscribe and stay a while. I know what it feels like to sit quietly while people treat you like you matter less. Share your story in the comments because quiet people usually carry the deepest strength. And if you've ever stayed strong for your child while falling apart inside, click hype or leave a like. You're not alone. Ethan's 16th birthday was supposed to be simple. That's all I could afford. I rented a small community hall near our apartment. The place smelled faintly like frosting and old wood polish. I decorated everything myself with silver streamers and blue balloons because those were Ethan's favorite colors. His friends helped set up tables while laughing over pizza boxes. For the first time in months, Ethan looked genuinely happy. That mattered more to me than anything. Danielle arrived 40 minutes late. Of course she did. The sound of her high heels echoed through the hall before anyone even saw her. She walked in wearing a tight cream-colored dress and expensive perfume that filled the room instantly. She looked around once and smirked. "Well," she said loudly, "this looks more like a school fundraiser than a birthday party." A few people laughed awkwardly. I ignored her. Danielle grabbed a cupcake, frowned at it, then whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Store-bought." I kept arranging plates. Then she started criticizing everything. The decorations, the food, the music, even Ethan's guest list. "Half these kids look 15, she joked. Ethan pretended not to hear her, but I saw his shoulders tense. I quietly asked Danielle to stop. She rolled her eyes. About an hour later, Ethan suddenly grabbed the table edge beside him. His face turned pale. "Mom," he whispered. Then he nearly collapsed. People rushed toward him while I held his shoulders. My heart started pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Danielle stepped forward dramatically. "This is exactly what I warned everyone about," she announced. I stared at her in shock. "What are you talking about?" She crossed her arms. "You keep ignoring his health because you can't afford proper care." The room became painfully quiet. "That's not true," I said softly. Danielle laughed coldly. "Oh, please, Vanessa. He's been getting worse for months." Several relatives exchanged uncomfortable looks. Then Danielle kept going. "She misses appointments. She forgets medications. Ethan told me everything." I looked at Ethan immediately. He looked confused and scared. "You're upsetting him," I whispered. That's when Danielle slapped me. Hard. Gasps filled the room. I tasted blood inside my mouth but stayed calm. Then Dr. Lewis asked his question. "Why were you the one picking up Ethan's prescriptions without his mother knowing?" Danielle's face changed instantly. And suddenly every whisper in the room disappeared. The truth is, Danielle had slowly inserted herself into Ethan's medical care for almost a year. First it seemed harmless, helpful even. I was working double shifts constantly because medical bills were stacking up. Danielle offered to help pick up prescriptions or drive Ethan to appointments whenever I got stuck at work. "You can trust me," she said many times. And I did, because she was my sister. Then things slowly started changing. Ethan became weaker after certain medication adjustments. He slept more, ate less. Sometimes he looked completely drained after spending time with Danielle. Every time I mentioned concerns, Danielle acted offended. "You're paranoid. You worry too much. You should be grateful someone's helping." My family agreed with her. Danielle always looked organized and confident, while I looked exhausted from overtime shifts and sleepless nights. At family dinners, she constantly criticized me. "Vanessa forgets things," she'd say while sipping wine calmly. "She's overwhelmed. She needs help." My mother nodded along. One night during dinner, Danielle looked directly at Ethan. "You could always stay with us for a while," she said sweetly. "Just until your mom gets herself together." I felt sick hearing that. Ethan stopped talking much after that. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me carefully like he didn't know what to believe anymore. Danielle constantly whispered things to him when I wasn't around. "Your mom's stressed. She's trying her best. She can't handle everything alone." Small comments. Quiet poison. Then I noticed something strange. Several appointment reminders never reached me. Medication refill dates didn't match Ethan's actual dosage schedule. At first I thought I was losing my mind. My relatives certainly acted like I was. When I questioned Danielle once, she laughed in front of everyone. "Maybe you should write things down more often." Everyone chuckled softly. I smiled too. But inside something shifted. I stopped arguing. Stopped defending myself. Instead I started watching. I worked in a clinic. Organizing records was second nature to me. Details mattered. Patterns mattered. And what they didn't know was that I had already begun tracking every prescription, phone call, and appointment connected to Ethan. Quietly, carefully, I copied pharmacy logs during lunch breaks, compared signatures, checked refill dates. I noticed medication instructions changed shortly after Danielle picked prescriptions up. One dosage had been altered twice. My stomach dropped when I realized it. Then I remembered something Danielle once said years earlier during an argument with her husband. "I know how to make people depend on me." At the time I thought she was joking. Now I wasn't so sure. I contacted someone outside the family. My childhood friend Maya. Maya worked as a hospital administrator and understood medical systems far better than I did. When I showed her the records, her face tightened immediately. "Vanessa," she said quietly, "this isn't normal." That sentence changed everything. I had a plan they never saw coming. Still I stayed calm. I let Danielle believe I was weak. I let my family keep underestimating me. Because sometimes the safest place to gather truth is beneath someone's arrogance. Maya became my lifeline during those weeks. We'd sit in her office after hours surrounded by the smell of coffee and printer paper, while reviewing Ethan's records together. Maya helped me request proper audit reports from pharmacies connected to Ethan's prescriptions. That's when we found it. Danielle's ID appeared repeatedly on pickups I never approved. Some medications had dosage changes entered after pickup times. Maya looked furious. She manipulated this whole situation, she said. Meanwhile, Danielle became even more arrogant. She openly discussed Ethan moving into her house permanently. My relatives praised her constantly. She's stepping up. She really cares. Ethan needs stability. Every sentence felt like a knife sliding deeper into my chest. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan overheard my parents insulting me one evening. She's falling apart, my mother whispered. Ethan stood up suddenly. Stop talking about my mom like that, he snapped. Everyone froze. It was the first time he defended me openly. Later that night he asked quietly, Mom, why does Aunt Danielle hate you? I didn't know how to answer. So I hugged him instead and prepared for the final confrontation. 3 days after the birthday party, I invited everyone to my apartment. I told them I wanted peace. Danielle arrived smiling confidently like she'd already won. Her husband stood beside her looking uncomfortable. My parents barely looked at me. The sound of the old kitchen clock ticked loudly while everyone settled into the living room. Then I placed a thick stack of organized files on the coffee table. Nobody spoke. Danielle frowned. What is this? I sat down calmly. Truth, I answered. Then I opened the folders one by one. Pharmacy logs, prescription records, security screenshots from pickup counters, dates, times, signatures. Danielle's smile disappeared slowly. Maya joined through video call and professionally explained every discrepancy. There were unauthorized medication adjustments, Maya said firmly, and repeated prescription pickups without the mother's documented approval. Danielle suddenly stood up. This is ridiculous. But her voice shook. I stayed calm. You altered Ethan's medication schedule, I said quietly. You made his symptoms worse so he'd depend on you. That's a lie. Then Ethan spoke, softly at first. She told me not to tell you things, he whispered. The room froze. Danielle looked terrified. Ethan continued. She said you were stressed and couldn't handle bad news. My mother covered her mouth. Then I played the voicemail recordings. Danielle's own voice filled the room. She's weak. He trusts me more already. She'd fall apart without me. Her husband stared at her in disbelief. What the hell is wrong with you? He asked. Danielle burst into tears instantly. I finally explained why I stayed silent at the birthday party. Because I needed her comfortable enough to expose herself publicly, I said. Right then, Dr. Lewis confirmed I had contacted him privately before the party regarding suspicious medication activity. Everything collapsed for Danielle after that. My father looked sick. My mother cried quietly. Danielle kept trying to defend herself, but nobody listened anymore. Then she looked at me with hatred. You planned this? I nodded once. Yes. She expected me to scream. Expected revenge. But I stayed calm. Because calm frightened her more. I looked directly into her eyes. You wanted everyone to think I was weak, I said quietly. But weak people don't protect their children this hard. Danielle faced legal consequences after investigators reviewed the medical records properly. Her marriage nearly collapsed. Most relatives stopped speaking to her completely. As for Ethan, his health improved faster than doctors expected once his medications were corrected. Within weeks, his energy returned. His laugh returned too. That mattered most. We spent long evenings talking honestly after everything happened. Sometimes he apologized for doubting me, and every time I told him the same thing. You were manipulated too. I forgave him immediately. Some relatives apologized eventually. I accepted their words politely, but things never fully returned to normal. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. Maya stayed close to us through everything. Ethan even calls her his second aunt now. Looking back, I finally understand something important. Strength isn't loud. It isn't expensive clothes or big houses or controlling people through fear. Real strength is persistence, patience, protection. The slap embarrassed me for one moment, but the truth humbled everyone who watched it happen. And if someone ever made you look like the problem while secretly hurting you behind the scenes, then you understand exactly how painful that feels. Share your story in the comments because people need to know they're not alone. Subscribe if you've ever had to defend yourself quietly while others judged you unfairly. Truth has a way of surfacing eventually, no matter how deeply people bury it. And click hype to help this story reach someone who truly needs it today. Your story has power too. If this connected with you, subscribe and share your journey below. Support someone else in the comments because family betrayal and manipulation leave scars people rarely talk about openly. Thank you for listening to mine. Every hype you give this video helps another person feel seen, understood, and a little less alone.